Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sermon Braindump. My name is Scott Dalen, an ELCA pastor in Southwest Iowa. I've sent these videos every week for a couple different reasons. First of which is just to take my brain out of background work and into the mode of writing and preparing a sermon that I'll preach to my congregation for the weekend. And then the second reason is just to allow you, the viewer, who have come across this video for whatever reason, to gain some different insight into the gospel text for the week. This particular Sunday, which is June 19th, 2016. Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there, or at least it will be on Sunday. The 19th is the fifth Sunday after Pentecost, and our assigned gospel text for this week comes out of Luke chapter 8, verses 26 through 39. Kind of a lengthy one, and is the story of Jesus performing an exorcism on the demoniac from Gerasenes. I think it's Gerasenes. Yeah, kind of a weird name. The interesting thing about this story, this is kind of what brackets it. This story happens in Gentile territory. It's on the opposite side of the Sea of Galilee from Galilee. So it's outside of Jewish territory. It's a Gentile area. Basically, this is one of an example of Jesus kind of going back and forth across the sea. He does that quite a bit through the kind of the central part of his ministry, and he does miracles, preaching, teaching, whatever, ministry on the Jewish side, and then he goes across and he goes into the Gentile territory and he does it there too. And this is kind of evidence that we see from Jesus that this life altering, this reality altering work that God is up to through Jesus Christ is for all people. That God will go anywhere to free us from what hinders us, from what marginalizes us, from what isolates us, whatever. So that's kind of what this story is aimed at. Now I bring all this up because it's very fitting if we look again right outside the boundaries of this. We first hear Jesus say, "Let's go across the sea." So that he and the disciples get in the boat and they're going overnight, and Jesus falls asleep. And this is when the storm comes up. The disciples freak out and Jesus calms the storm. That's directly preceding this. And then once that has all happened, then they land and this story happens. And as we'll hear when I read it momentarily, the people there freak out about what has happened and ask Jesus to leave, and he essentially gets right back in the boat and goes right back across to the Jewish territory, back to Galilee, and continues things there. So this whole instance is kind of almost like a whim. Not to say that Jesus had whims or that God has whims, but there's I can't think of a better way to say it. Jesus is kind of hanging out in Galilee, and he's kind of like, there's something over there that needs to get done. So let's go do it. Let's brave a storm. I'll take care of it. I'll protect you in the midst of it. I'm going to heal this dude, and then we're going to come back. So we're going to go on a really long trip, a dangerous one, to save one person who's, by all rights, shouldn't even deserve it. Let's do it. And they do. And that's the basis of it. Okay, so I'm kind of foreshadowing some stuff. Let's get into the actual text. Again, Luke chapter 8, 26 through 39. Kind of a lengthy one, but let's go through it. Then they arrived at the country of Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And he stepped out on the land. A man of the city who had demons met him. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he did not live in a house but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he fell down before him and shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for a second because there's a lot going on in this first part, and we'll go on. Okay, so they get to Gerasenes, and again, Gentile territory. And we see that this one individual is beyond isolation. everything is working against him to keep him separate, not only from his community, but in general, if we consider the differences between what Jesus is, the cultural boundaries that Jesus is crossing. A, Gentile, which is automatically unclean, or at least is interaction is frowned upon. I shouldn't say unclean. I don't think that's right, but automatically, like interaction is frowned upon. He is a demoniac. And now for us in this day and age, maybe that seems a little odd. We kind of don't know what to make of that. A lot of times I've heard explanations of what we consider to be mental illness. Perhaps in that day and age they thought was demon possession. Maybe demon possession takes the guise of mental illness now. I mean, I don't know. Spiritual forces are at work. Do I believe in them? Yes, I do. Can I explain them? No, I can't. But regardless, so this man is tormented by a demon, or as we hear, many demons. He is naked, and to look upon the nakedness of another is, in the Jewish culture, like no, unless you are married and in your tent or house. So that's a big no-no. He lives in the tombs. Now, this is the big one. He lives in the tombs. He lives in the presence of death. To be in the presence of death for a Jewish person makes you unclean. So regardless of all this other stuff going on, just going into the presence of this man makes Jesus unclean. And yet he's willing to do so. And he not only goes there seemingly on a whim, and again, this is the only thing he does, so it seems to be his sole itinerary for going to Gennesaret is to help this guy. And so they go, they get there, they encounter him, and we can see, or we hear, that he's been guarded, he's been cast away, he doesn't live in a house, he doesn't live in the community, he's kind of been shunted off to the side. They try and subdue him, they try and capture him, probably over and over and over again, and yet the demon gives him the strength to break the chains, to break what bonds him. So he's literally tied up and thrown away. This guy's been treated like garbage because of his situation, because of his what has happened to him, and this is what Jesus encounters. Now, as we hear, it's not just one demon; it's a legion. Now, I've heard it described that a legion is like 6,000 troops in certain situations. Whether or not that number is accurate here, we don't know. All we know is it's many demons. So many demons reside in this guy. Apparently, demons require some physical animal person to inhabit in order to be like, I don't know, to exist. Again, I don't know. I don't understand the demonic. I don't understand the spiritual realm, the that which exists beyond our reality. I don't know. And that gives me some confusion when I think about, and that's okay. It's forces that are bigger than us, that are different than us, that are subduing this man, in addition to everything else going on. Okay, so let's see. So all that's going on, and they begged him not to order them back into the abyss. I'm really drawn to that, the abyss. The Greek word for the abyss, which I can't remember off the top of my head, is only used a few times in the New Testament. This is the only time in any of the Gospels. It occurs one time in the book of Romans, so in Paul's writings, one time. And what I really dig there is Paul says, who can go into the abyss to bring Christ back? And then the other times when it occurs, it's in the book of Revelation, and it refers to the pit, the bottomless void, the great chasm that Satan and the demons will be cast into in final judgment. Those are the only times that this particular word shows up. Now, there's also a Jewish notion of the abyss being represented by the sea, the great void, the great unknown, the bottomless void. We don't know what's out there. I can speak to that. Just this past spring, I vacationed in South Carolina, and I've been to the ocean a couple of times in my life, but there's something for me personally when I stand next to the ocean and I look out there, I feel very small. It's a force, it's a place, it's it's just something that is greater than I am. And I sense that, and that's just for me personally, but it's something, it's a notion that I share. I don't know what's out there. And whatever is out there is bigger than me, is greater than me, can end me if it chooses to. And that's kind of the notion, kind of the understanding that the Jewish culture has with the sea, with the abyss, the unknown that's out there. And what's interesting is the demons fear it. Maybe they already know it. Maybe they've already been there. Maybe that's why they possess this man, to stay out of it. But they don't want to go there, and they recognize that Jesus has the power to set them. So okay, so that's the first part. Let's continue now. Now there was on the hillside a large herd of swine feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Okay, so they're like, hey, there's pigs over there. Can we go in the pigs and not go into the abyss? And Jesus is like, yeah, sure. And then they all run into the sea and drown, or they run into the abyss and drowned. And interesting. Guess that didn't turn out too well for you demons, did it? So that goes on. But again, Jesus gives them permission to do that. Demons respect, they fear the authority of Christ. We've seen that Jesus has the authority over death in different times recently. We've seen that Jesus has the authority over disease. When they were in the boat with the disciples crossing the sea to come here, he has power over the storm, over nature, and he has power over the demonic, over the whatever you want to call it. Jesus has authority. Okay, going on. When the swineherds saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged that he might be with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, return to your home and declare how much God has done for you. So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. Okay, so that's the end of the story. So we see that the people, the keepers of the pigs, witnessed what happened. They freak out, they run in, they say to everyone, gosh, this has all happened. We don't know exactly what they tell them, but they tell everyone about what has happened. And they all come out. And so what causes this fear? We don't know. What exactly is the fear that's within the people? We don't know. Is it fear of Jesus because he has this great authority? He has this power over even demons? Is it fear because they have seen the man now normal, now in his right mind, and how is this going to change up how they have dealt with him in the past? They basically tied him up and threw him away. Now he's going to come back in their midst, and how might that change? How do we have to adapt to the fact that someone that we were afraid of at one point is now among us? Are they afraid that Jesus is going to continue to disrupt their livelihood? We hear in Mark's account that there's 2,000 pigs in this great herd, and I'm going to be a little off, but I was hearing something about this, and in current status, at about $80 a head, roughly, however much pork is going for right now, that it's like hundreds of thousands of dollars of value in today's value that has just run off and drowned, that they've lost. Are they afraid that Jesus is going to continue to disrupt things that way? We don't know. Regardless, when the power of God is on display, it creates fear. It creates fear within the demons, and it can create fear within humanity, because the awesome power of God goes way beyond our ability to comprehend, to wrap our heads around, and it's scary. It can be very scary. So that's kind of the story. That's what's going on. And as I think about this, and think about the notion of there is no cost that Jesus will not pay. There is no length Jesus will not go to in order to release the captive, to release the oppressed from that which oppresses them. For this man, he's oppressed in a lot of different ways. He's oppressed by the demons. He's oppressed by the need to be alone. He's basically considered dead by those who knew him because he lives among the tombs. Jesus will go among the dead to set us free. Foreshadowing? Yeah, I think so. Jesus will go to death. And as Paul says, who will bring him back from the abyss? Well, God will. God will do that. Why? For us. And so, in light of a lot of recent stuff that's been going on, it seems to me very applicable, this notion of the oppressed. And who are we in the story? Are we the oppressed at times? Yeah, we are. Are we the oppressor? Are we the one who's afraid of what maybe God is asking us to do in terms of setting someone free, of recognizing the value of others? And in light of what happened in Orlando last Sunday and the senseless murder of dozens, literally dozens of people for whatever reason, but mainly seems to be because of their sexual orientation. How can we stand for that? How can we be okay with that? And are we called? How are we called to respond? And I don't know. But all I know is that I don't. Clearly, I don't even know how to talk about this. It's very raw. It's very scattered in my mind. But this is a community that has been oppressed, that has been marginalized, that has been treated as if their lives do not matter, as if they, as members of the human race, are not made in the image of God, as we are all made in the image of God. And that's not right. And that's something that we need to address within our society, and not just talk about it and not just send our well wishes, but something that we actually need to address. And will I go there in the sermon? I don't know. I haven't written it yet. Is that what we need to be thinking about? Well, the Word of God is living and active, and it meets us in the midst of our day to day, and this is where our day to day is at. So let's start talking about it and not just sweep it under the rug. That's what's going on in this. Again, it's heavy in light of recent events. If you have thoughts, questions, or comments, I welcome them. By all means, share those down in the comment section. We can continue the conversation. Otherwise, I hope you have a blessed week, and we will catch you next time.